Welcome, everybody. We have Rob McNeil with us from Northeast Golf Company, who has been our course architect for quite so many years. And Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Could you just, before we talk about the tree project, which you're here
Sure.
for, could you just tell us a little bit about you and your involvement with Kernwood?
Sure. We started here with Dean Robertson and Bosie. Probably 2002, I believe, we got started, or even earlier than that. We've been here at least 14 years. When we originally came into the golf course, it was when you were putting in the pipeline through the middle of the golf course that kind of blew up several holes that we had to put back together. And our approach at that time was we're going to restore the golf course and certainly make enhancements to it. As a benefit to that project, we did a master plan at that time. I believe that was 2002 as well, which Dean and John have ticked away at over the years and made some great improvements to the golf course. Trees were part of that master plan, which are now really being approached in a more aggressive manner and exciting manner. So we've been a part of Kernwood for a while.
Well, welcome back.
It's been wonderful. Great to be here.
Well, before we talk about the tree project, could you talk a little bit about where you've been at Kernwood so long, the sort of uniqueness of the course?
Sure. This is a classic Donna Ross, as you guys all know and have embraced over the years. We've worked on a bunch of Ross courses. This course, and I haven't spent as much time as I did on it today in a while. I just spent the last 3 hours out there with Frank and John and Frank, Dully the pro. And every hole is unique. Every hole is different. If you look at this golf course now, the definition that's occurred over the years with the grassing and now with the trees and the bunkering that we've done and the agronomics that have taken place under John's watch over the last several years, the golf course is tremendous. And it's uniquely different than other Ross courses in that it fits this property perfectly. It embraces everything that's around it. I mean, you've got the Great Salem down the street. You have Kernwood here. They're equally as challenging, as beautiful and playable as they were meant to be when they were first built. So it's a great place.
Well, thank you.
It is. It really is.
If you could just take us hole by hole and the history of the tree project and just walk us through everything.
Yeah, the tree project, as I said, in all likelihood began back in 2002. We had a big vision for the golf course to open it up, expand it, and obviously you're surrounded by beauty, the water, and many of the golf holes were encased in trees, and all that view and visibility and strategy was eliminated with a lot of the trees on the golf course. So we were out here, this has been over the past several years, but again more aggressively in the last year or two, with the USGA as well being a part of this process, identified a number of trees on the golf course to do three real special things. Number one, agronomically, allow John and his crew to really do a better job maintaining the turf and give them a chance in a lot of these areas. Number two, to aesthetically improve the golf course, visually to embrace the surroundings, the river, and everything this property has to offer. And number three, to strategically improve the golf course. I mean, you have, and we really noticed it today when we were on the golf course, and I mentioned it to Frank, the contours of this golf course that were hidden in the trees are now exposed. They're now here. If you look at the left side of 10, if you look at number 4, if you look at any hole you want to pick out there, number 7, the left side of number 8, all those contours that were invisible to the player are now visible, and they're playable, and they're part of the experience in the golf course. The quarters have been opened up wider. In no way is the course easier. I don't think it's better. The course is better. You still have to make the shots. It's all about, as Ross would put it in any of his golf courses, it's all about the approach shots, it's all about the greens and the green surrounds, and this is no exception here. The greens are exceptional, the surrounds are very interesting and challenging. You still have to make those shots, but now you can make those shots. It's not meant to penalize you by putting a ball 5 or 8 yards off the sides of a fairway and be behind a tree. It's just not fair. It's not fair golf. If you look at this, I mean, we started here when our master plan began. This is the 1951. This is as far back as we could find of a full aerial of the golf course. What's not on there? Trees. Zero. None. Zip. So imagine no trees being on this golf course and experience it that way. Obviously, these trees have grown over the years, and they've become an integral part of some of the golf holes. The game has changed, safety and other things. Practice range has been put in here. All these things have forced some issues relative to trees, but for the most part, we went back to this aerial when we were restoring bunkers, when we did that original pipe project, any bunker work we do, we kind of go back to this aerial here to mimic style and some of the positioning, but there's no trees here. So let's now play Kernwood in a different way, where the corridors are wider, the golf course is better, it's fairer for every player, and that's been the intent of the tree program from the beginning. We're not just taking out trees for the sake of taking out trees. Each tree has been carefully looked at with the committee here, obviously through the USGA as well with John and his staff, to decide whether these trees are of value aesthetically, agronomically, strategically. If they're not necessarily need to be a part of the experience out here. And now, as you go around the golf course, think about it today, 13 or 14 of the 18 holes look at water. 14 of the 18 holes experience water in a much broader sense than you did before. Yes, maybe you could see pieces and parts of it, and we identified probably 3 or 4 more windows to open up today that would even more give you that experience as you play the golf course. So it's a pretty exciting experiment so far. It's been hopefully well embraced, well received by the membership, and we'll move forward.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's take questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Yes, sir.
So where were all the trees, when did these trees originate? When were they planted? Who planted them, and was there agreement at that time, or did they just sort of stick them in anyway?
Well, I think there was probably some trees out here originally. A lot were planted. A lot of trees were planted over the years. I mean, hundreds and maybe thousands over the years. And they grew. I mean, we're talking 1914, you're talking 100 years. So in 100 years, you know, something that doesn't exist here is all of a sudden 50, 100 feet tall, especially some of these specimen trees. There's parts of the golf course, like right here on 18, where some of these trees, they're significant. I mean, they're probably 100 years old in some cases. But there's a lot of pieces of the golf course that are, that there were certainly no trees, and you can see that these trees are probably 40, 50 years old, so they were put in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I would bet that 30-year range really populated this golf course with trees.
Was there a plan involved? Or just,
I don't know.
It certainly doesn't exist.
I don't know. There was, you know, I'm sure everything is well-intentioned, but everything's well-intentioned, you know, as things go.
Just looking to define fairways, you know.
Yeah. So we were talking about this today, and this will cover a little different, a side topic. We were talking about fairway cut with a collar cut on the fairway. No, don't do it. This is a classic golf course, and what we've got right now, what you have right now strategically, the fairway, I mean the rough line defines your strategy, not another cut. So that was something that was developed probably in the late 70s through the mid 80s, late 80s. That was a very popular defining pattern of mowing a golf course. It was not part of a golf course in 1914, I can tell you that, or the 20s, or the 30s, or the 40s. And that's what you have here, so there's no reason to go back to that. What we've done is and I've worked with John for a number of years now in moving these fairway lines and pushing and pulling strategically, use number 11 as an example, to push that fairway down towards that left front bunker on number 11. Almost every hole we did something. I mean, it's hard to see if you're not paying attention, but it's all happened out there. He's done a great job in moving things around. So there's different ways to make the golf course better without trees.
Another question.
Yeah.
Rob, are there trees that you left that you would have liked to take down?
No, not yet. We made a big list today.
How big's that list?
It's a very efficient list of trees that are going to continue the philosophy that we've established with this first go through to make each hole better, to make each hole more playable. You know, the right side of number 2, some more trees on number 1 along the left-hand side. Where you have 7 trees where 1 will do the trick, we're taking out 6. That kind of situation. What we've also found out here, and number 10 is a perfect example, is trees that have been lost in the woods, I call them. That tree on the left side of 10, I don't know if anybody noticed that tree before, but now it is the tree. And as we found a few more today that are the tree that are in the woods, so we got to get to them. And as we get to them, all these contours, the left side of number 13, It can go on and on. 18s are gonna be when we get done with 18, it's gonna be the best lawn golf course. So there's all kinds of different things out there that the trees are exposing that you wouldn't even see if you didn't take them out.
I was gonna ask about two trees specifically, the tree 18 in the bunker.
Yeah.
If you comment on that, and the tree to the right of 12, which, what do you think about that?
To the
tree?
right of
The right of the 12 bunker,
Over the bunker, yeah. Hangs over the
On the
bunker.
back?
on the side.
On the side.
'Cause
Oh, yes, okay.
We didn't really talk about the tree on number 12. I have to look at it again. I don't know if I'm not to comment. This tree we did talk about though, 5 minutes ago as we were pulling out. Now, I'm sure there's some affinity to that tree by some people and maybe not by a lot of people. It's a memorable tree. It's a novelty to the golf course, no question. It's been there forever. There's a bunker in the tree on the 18th of Kernwood. Everybody knows about it and so forth. Do you need it? No. I would recommend you remove it. It strategically hurts the golf hole with your approach shot. I mean, you can hit it, you have a right pin placement up there, those branches are knocking balls down all day long into the bunker, and it makes it a much more difficult approach shot. The golf hole is, the approach shots here are a premium, and this is no exception here at number 18. So that tree would, I would remove the tree. It causes a lot of different other problems too, agronomically, mess, maintenance, all kinds of different things that you have to deal with that tree. There's other trees there that are fine. You got 4 trees in one location, but all of a sudden that hole becomes like this with that tree. I understand the affinity for it. I can tell you that I've been, on my watch, in the last 5 years, I've been responsible for the removal, or the trees have fallen, these in the middle of holes, trees that have been there for 100 years. It's just happened on my watch over the past several years. But it's been fine with me, and I can tell you that after these things are gone, and you can be a testament to that today, the courses are always better. They're always better. The holes are always better. They're more playable. It's just a matter of fact. Yep.
Could you comment on the removal of the trees along the fence that surrounds 13 Green? They kind of hid the houses behind there, and now they're exposed to us.
Right.
We're exposed to
Right.
them.
We talked about that, whether it's kind of just happened out there to help the green. The primary reason for that work out there was that green has been a difficult maintenance challenge for a number of years. Some improvements were made on the surface. John's done a great job, but the hole needed to breathe, quite frankly.
Could I ask John if there are any plans to maybe replace something of a smaller size to provide a little protection from the neighbors and us, and to hide the houses?
We have talked to the horticulturist about a landscape design plan. It doesn't involve large trees, it involves clumps of grass that are about 6 foot high, and different shrubs and vines on the fence. But I mean, I think it defeats the purpose of trying to get air circulation in there, as well as blocking any sunlight if we planted trees.
I don't know, all the trees that have come down and the way the vistas are wide open, and for me, big change, a nice change. I think that's the one area that just kind of looks unsightly.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and we talked about it out there. It was the first time I'd seen it today. But with a call it arborvitae with this ornamental grasses, I think you can softly quiet that view down, and it's just fine. Yeah.
Do we know if we own that fence or if the neighbors own that fence?
I believe we own it.
We own it?
Yeah, I believe so. Because it goes all the way to the property, all the way down to school.
I mean, that might be an easy fix, just replacing the fence.
Yep. Could do a stockade or some kind of different fence there. Yep.
What's your thought on the tree on 60? Everyone talks about it, but
Take it out.
I'm just curious.
Take it out. Take it
Take it out,
out.
the big one.
Take it out. Here's why. Okay, it's only penalizing the higher handicap player, number one. I stood on the front tee. I'm a 12 handicap player. Okay, I used to be a 3, now I'm a 12. I'm from the white tee. It's only hurting that player. I mean, they're going to have to play to the right. Now the hole becomes infinitely longer by 40 yards, and it's a tough hole as it is. Let's give everybody the opportunity to play the golf hole on a beeline if they can, and get it shortened up as they can. You're still gonna have 190 yards into that green, those players. It's still gonna be a heck of a golf hole, difficult golf hole. But all that tree does is forces everybody to the right and makes the golf hole 40 yards longer, but it's long enough. If it was a 320-yard hole, okay. It's a 420-yard hole. That's my feeling of that, and the strategy in some of these cases, and that's one of them, is let's let the rough line be the carry point and the strategy on some of these golf holes. 11's another example. If you took a couple more trees down on the right side of 11 does the same thing. That tree's kind of right in your line of forces. Everybody left, and it adds 25 to 30 yards of golf hole. It's not necessary. Let the golf hole play. Let it play on the line that it's designed to play at. My belief is, and I don't know exactly, that tee was likely not there when it was originally designed. It was probably where the forward tee is, or somewhere else, where it would play in a little bit of a straighter line, and that tree would not even be in play. There was other trees that were planted around that tree. It was a cluster over there. There was a lot going on in that little corner. Again, forcing what? On a 425-yard golf hole, what are you forcing? You're forcing it to be 480 yards. So let the golf hole play straight away and challenge you that way. That's my feeling on that tree. And also, if you stand on the back half of the back tee, let's say the back half of the back tee, what we try to accomplish today is stand on that tee and you see the green. I want you to stand on that tee and see the green from the tee all the way. So that tree comes out, there's a couple of small trees in your way, and you see the flag. You see everything. Everything's exposed to you. And wherever we can do that, I think out here would be great, without compromising the hole in any way. You're just visually getting the entire picture of the golf hole. 11, the same thing on 11. If you took 2 or 3 trees down that right-hand side, you're going to stand on the tee, you're going to see the surface of the green, you're going to see the right-hand bunker, you're going to see everything.
You don't think that compromises the hole?
No, not at all. What? Not at all. I don't. It's the same, you're taking that same line. For the guy that hits it over the tree, he hits it over the tree. The tree's not stopping anybody from hitting it over the tree. For the guy that can't hit it over the tree, is hitting it into a tree when he could hit it into a point where he can play the golf hole. If you go back to Ross, let's go back to Ross for a second. Ross was not a believer in trees in any sort as the strategic element of the golf hole. He didn't mind trees on the golf course, but to have it as the strategic point of attack to the golf hole, that was not his philosophy. It never was on any of his golf courses. Some of these trees were added after the fact, and that's probably one of them that became, and then the tee was moved. So now it became a different angle, and the whole thing changed it. So we also looked at 11 on the bottom, which we really liked that angle down there too. So.
Question?
Yep.
What has influenced you to follow this career path and to uphold the integrity of Donald Ross and his design?
Oh, God.
You thought it was going to be an easy crowd, didn't you?
He's supposed to be golfing.
That's a long answer. That's a long answer. No, here's the short answer. Number one, I've been designing golf courses probably since I was 8 years old. Forever. In my backyard, in the woods, forever. Chose it as a path of career, education, and so forth. Went to work in the golf industry when I was very young. Number two, I grew up and spent all my childhood and early adulthood at Whitensville Golf Club. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Whitensville Golf Club. It's the best 9-hole Donald Ross golf course in the world, and that's a fact. If you go play it and see it, you'll understand. There, I was in the restoration committee about 4 or 5 years ago. We removed almost every tree on the golf course, and it's spectacular. So Ross has been close to my heart from the very beginning of my golf career, and I've worked on a number of Ross golf courses, and all of them are a little bit different than the last, but I just love the the classic mentality of those green complexes and the bunkering and all of that, and this is no exception. This golf course has gotten so good over the past 15 years, so good. I was here 15 years ago and I'm here now, and I've seen it all. And you guys have been here too. It's gotten very, very good. Yeah.
It's a comment, not a well, sort of a question. I happened upon a short documentary about Donald Ross on YouTube last year. And it said that Pinehurst #2 was his signature course. And it said that the entire course is tree lined and not one tree is in play. Was that accurate?
It's probably not entirely tree lined today.
Yeah.
That has changed.
Okay.
In the recent restorations. That could be the case, but they're not in play. I mean, that's the main, what you're saying.
That was the point, as I think about Pinehurst #2 and how famous it is, and that it is tree lined and no trees are in play. We had 12 trees in play on the first hole. You know?
And also, Pinehurst #2 does not have the Danvers River running around it.
Right.
That's the big difference.
And from the views, but just from the strategic point of golf, he didn't have any trees in play.
No. If you go to, I mean, geez, Dedham, go to Dedham, they're just taking a ton of trees out. Charles River, we're kicking their butt to take more trees out because they need to. Whitensville that we just worked on, we took hundreds of trees out. And any of the recent activities on tour, the U.S. Opens at Oakmont this year, they just took out 1,000 trees, Winged Foot, 1,000 trees. And it's exposed, just like here, it's exposed these contours that were not visible and playable to anybody. Now they are. It's great. It's a good thing. It's got to be done right, but it's a good thing.
Are you familiar with Mountain Ridge?
I am familiar with Mountain Ridge. Same thing.
A tremendous amount of tree work there.
Yeah, same thing.
Rob, it's been suggested by some of our members that the removal of the trees has made the golf course a lot easier.
I love
Speak
that
to that
question.
point.
I love that question. That's never happened in any case anywhere. I love that question. So how? Is it easier for you?
Well, no.
When you say, so here, let's use.
But the removal of the trees have now made the shot lines different.
Correct. But I think it's made it more playable and more fair. Easier is a relative term. It's more playable and more fair to all players. It would be fun and interesting because I get that question all the time, but I never really get feedback after the fact. It would be interesting to do an analysis of your top 30 players on the golf course.
It's more forgiving out there, I can give you 50 examples.
But more forgiving is one thing, but is it easier? There's two. So is all of a sudden your top 30 players, their handicap is going from 5 to 3? No, that doesn't happen. Or everybody's handicap is 20 is now a 16. That doesn't happen. So it's not easier. It's more playable and more fair. Maybe more forgiving. I like that too.
Do you have a recommendation on how long the rough should be out there? Because, a lot of people think that now that there's less trees and obstacles.
I think you can be aggressive with it. I think you can. I think we just talked about the rough line being that strategic point now on some of these golf holes, yeah.
Because that's the next concern, how long is it?
But how much can the membership swallow? I mean, how much can a 25 handicap swallow the rough? Yeah, a couple, 3 inches. And what is it now, 2.5 inches?
It's 2 1/4.
2 1/4. 2.5, I mean, you gotta kind of feed that to the membership and say, okay, enough. And they stop, but, yeah, I would,
Another question, Dave.
Sort of a follow-up to a couple of previous questions about compromise and easier. If you're a high handicap player or just in general, were any of the particular holes rescored as far as their difficulty?
Yeah, probably not yet. I don't know if the MGA is going to come back out here after this is done. There may be a component in their quotient for width of quarter, and that may be part of their equation as they look at the golf course. I don't know that it's going to change too much. The bunkering's the same, the greens are obviously the same, the distances are the same. We haven't added tee length or changed tee length or yardage. you know, they may come out here, it may be worth having them out here to take a quick look at it and say, okay, this is what we've done. Is all of a sudden this whole, the fourth handicap instead of the sixth? You know, I don't know. Yep.
When the fifth green, when I first came here, was a tier on the back left, and I don't know what the original plans were. Now the 50 has some movement, but it's nowhere near the severity that it used to be. Do you have any recommendations for the fifth green?
I'd have to look at it again. We really didn't look at that closely this time around.
It was one of these tiered, the back left was
Yeah.
up in the air, and I don't know if that was the original green or whether that
No.
was
The
something.
fifth green has been redone.
That was
3
redone.
times.
Yeah, I know it was rebuilt at some point. I didn't rebuild it, but I know it was rebuilt.
I could comment on that.
Okay.
The fifth green, when I joined in the early 70s, fifth green was the opposite of 14.
Yeah.
It was a saucer and not a turtleback. And I can't tell you exactly when or why, but the club decided to tinker with that green.
Mhm.
And what Harold is saying, there was a shelf on the left side, and when it was built, it turned out to be too severe than what it looked like on paper. It didn't last long.
Okay.
And that shelf was shaved and wasn't flattened, but there were very few spots on the shelf on the top back left
Mhm.
where you could put a hole.
It'd be interesting to go back. The Ross plans for this are few and far between. They're hard to find. They do exist. I think holes 1 through 9 exist. They have copies of, but they're different. They're not the same it's a little different 1 through 9. But that'd be interesting to research a little bit more closely. Whether it's something happened with the wall, water, flooding, or I don't know what happened over there, but no.
Rob, are there any plans to do any additional runoffs around the green similar to one?
Yeah, we talked about that. I mean, that's another Ross, consistent with Ross's style. Where did we talk about that today? Broadening of the one on the left side of number 8. Let's see, let me go through my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, broadening of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Maybe. We did look at it. 15, 16, 15 we talked about connecting over to 16 from behind. Those trees coming out of there on the right side of 16 are great. That opens the whole thing up. So we can connect the back of 16 to the 15 to the 16T. 17, 8. So yeah, there's those things we're looking at every day. There's a lot of areas that are simply mowing patterns that John can capture, and others that we got to be more aggressively stripped and reshaped. Yeah, he's done a great job with the green expansion areas and capturing. We've talked about that a lot, and he does a great job with it, just getting the entire pad that's supposed to be green. And that adds a lot to the pinning opportunities.
Yeah, question.
Actually, I'm a newbie, so I just want to say, actually, I'm a real estate guy. The money views here are awesome.
Yeah.
Great job. I think
Well,
it's
they're only
actually,
gonna get that, yeah.
You know, I think it's great. Second thing is, I think that the approach, certainly on the short par fours here, there's no course close to this on the North Shore, including Salem. I know that they think they're the best club in America, but they are so hard. The greens are short, you know, they're a lot smaller. The undulations on the greens here are incredible.
Yeah.
So if you guys sped it up, this would be crazy fast. And by the way, some of the trees, even on 18, you hit left on 18, still with a rough. You can't hold that green.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if, you know, I'm a beater at times, most of the time, but you got to hit it in the fairway to keep it on the green, and I think that's the important. For me, I have to just say, real estate, I love the views, but I think that the second shots here are tougher than any course I've played.
That's for us. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's all about
So
the
I
approach
just-
shots and the green surrounds. And what you just said about the rough. So if you took a tree out and you were behind the tree, well, your hole is done. And there's a tree there. I'm sorry. If you hit a ball in a rough and you're behind the tree, you're finished. Now, my philosophy, and I think Ross as well, is you hit a ball in the rough, make the shot.
Yeah.
Make the shot. Out of the rough, make the shot. At least you have a shot. Make the shot. Instead of taking 6, you got a chance at 4, but you're probably still gonna make the same 5
Yeah.
that you would have made if the tree was in front of you. So that's, just give you a chance. Just give you a chance to play the golf hole. And the views, in a lot of cases, and we just found a couple more today, it's usually one tree. It's gonna be one singular tree. So if you're standing on number 3 tee right now, and you took the one pine out that's on the left side of the 4th tee, the right side of the 4th tee as you're playing the golf hole, boom, you got another window. It's right there. So it's usually one single tree that gives you a little bit more each time.
Any other questions?
It was Cornish who redesigned 5 initially, and we weren't happy with Cornish's design, and I think then Brian came in, and
Yeah.
that's the result of what Brian did.
Yeah, yeah.
Another question?
Two points. One is there been any thoughts to speeding up the fairways at all, number one?
Speeding up?
And
Yeah.
secondly, I thought there was always some discussion about 7 and the views
Yeah.
that you would get.
Yeah, so
if you
7
Push the fairway over to the
Yeah,
left or to the
yeah,
right.
7, I've been trying to sell that for a long time on number 7. 7, I drew that up probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I drew that whole thing up on 7. For a couple of reasons. Number one, you gotta consider safety is a big deal with that practice facility, and 7 gets a lot of hammering from the balls on the practice range. So how can we slide that fairway over probably 30 or 40 feet to the left? Take the fairway away from the right, put it to the left, gives you a whole different angle into that green, playing over the little inlet there in the water. It's a really neat angle. We've looked at it forever. The grass over there is much better now. It's gotten better and better and better. I think it's there. The hole is there. It can happen now. You'd have to take out the 2 big trees that are over there right now, and then it's there. It's really there.
Wasn't the Corps of Engineers against that?
I don't know. We've never designed anything. We never did anything with it.
They
but,
tried to do it, and the Corps of Engineers wouldn't let them do it.
Okay. Well, this is just mowing grass, so I don't know what the Corps of Engineers is going to say about that.
They put it right to the water's edge.
Yeah. We wouldn't go to the water's edge. It's not even near the water's edge. It's way in, way in.
Yeah, I think Frank's got a comment.
Rob, on 7, could you just reiterate the point of the safety factor that not only aesthetically, how that would improve, but the safety factor that would bring?
Yeah. So if you go out there today, and Frank brought this point up, it's a good one. If you stand on the tee and you look at just the mowing pattern that's been established today, it's a singular one-way in and out mowing pattern. The light line, if you're looking at it, would be the right edge of the fairway. So imagine would be the right edge of the fairway. So the whole right side that exists right now would be rough and would be a much safer golf hole from the playability of the range. It would be over almost a half fairway of itself over to the left. It makes a big difference. It would make a huge difference. I think it's a better golf hole. It's a more interesting golf hole. You're playing over the inlet twice. You're not playing out to the right. It's 2 really interesting shots. So it's there, it's doable. I believe it's very easily doable with mowing and removal of a couple of trees. And I think we can get it.
Do you think you could move the green on 7 back?
That would be an act of God. Now you're talking about doing physical work near the water. Yeah.
On some of the
It's a good
holes,
green.
they did remove the trees, like on 1 on both sides, and
Yeah.
number 8 on the left-hand side. Now that the trees are gone, the root systems are still there. They're
Yeah.
very visible. They're above the surface. Is there plans to grind those with the stump grinder?
Yeah, that's John's, yes.
Any other questions? I just want to end with just your opinion on the future of the game. There's recent data from the National Golf Foundation that the Wall Street Journal highlighted and said that there's more people playing the game than ever in the history of the game, but there's more people leaving it. And the reason that they're leaving it is the difficulty of the game, not being familiar with the rules or the etiquette of it. And the most recent private club built in this country was Blackjack National, which is Tiger Woods' first designed golf course. No trees near the green, no rough near the greens. So if you could talk a little bit towards that, what the future of the game is, because to Kernwood, as it is every other club, it's about bringing people that are new to the game and converting them to stay in the game.
Right.
And you don't have single-digit players joining clubs.
Right, right. Well, it's interesting. I'll speak from the perspective of someone that owns a golf course too. I just bought a golf course. Stupid me. But I bought a 9-hole golf course that I think is the future of the game. I think it's an entry-level kind of a golf course that really allows anybody to play and begin the game, and it's not gonna really hurt you to get out there, and it's not that difficult. But it is a difficult game. This game of golf is very hard, certainly for a beginner. I understand the frustration. Courses like this, though, are classics. These aren't going anywhere. These courses aren't going anywhere. What needs to happen, and it's happened over the several years, is the courses have left the inventory. That is very important for the success of clubs like yours and others that have been here for a long time. And you're not going to see new courses being built. You better not, because they're not going to be successful. It just can't happen unless they're in a market that's just got nothing. These markets, especially here in the Northeast, I've been here my whole life, are saturated. There's enough golf here for all of us for a long time. But the condition of your course, obviously the membership, is gonna be the future success. But I think it's growing the game is what it's all about. I think growing the game and getting kids involved, getting women involved, getting beginners involved, keeping seniors involved is the bread and butter of this game. If you keep that practice facility is gold. The short game facility is gold. Those clinics, all that is gold. You have to have that to keep this viable.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.